amongst the saddles, that there were dinosaurs in Eden, and that Noah, who certainly had enough on his hands, had to load 2 brachiosaurs onto the ark along with his wife, his sons, and his sons' wives, to say nothing of the green alligators and the long-necked geese and the humpty-backed camels and all the rest. Faced with the obvious question of how Noah kept his 300 by 30 by 50 cubit ark from sinking under the weight of the dinosaur couples, Ham's literature argues that the dinosaurs on the ark were young ones, who thus did not weigh as much as they might have. "We," announced Ham, "are taking the dinosaurs back from the evolutionists," and everybody cheered. This was a serious crowd. They gathered in the museum's auditorium and took copious notes while Ham described the great victory won not long before in Oklahoma, where city officials had announced a decision, which they would later reverse, alas, to put up a display based on Genesis at the city's zoo so as to eliminate the discrimination long inflicted upon sensitive Christians by the statue of the Hindu god Ganesh that decorated the elephant exhibit. They listened intently as Ham went on, drawing a straight line from Adam's fall to our godless public schools, from Charles Darwin to gay marriage. He talked about the great triumph of running Ganesh out of the elephant paddock, and they all cheered again. The heart of the museum would take the form of a long walkway down which patrons would be able to journey through the entire creation story. The walkway was in only the earliest stages of construction. On this day, for example, one young artist was working on a scale model of a planned exhibit depicting the day on which Adam named all the creatures of the earth. Adam was depicted in the middle of the delicate act of naming the saber-toothed tiger, while behind him, already named, a woolly mammoth seemed on the verge of taking a nap. Elsewhere in the museum, another Adam, this one full-sized, was reclining peacefully, waiting to be installed. Eventually, he was meant to be placed in a pool under a waterfall. As the figure depicted a prelapsarian Adam, he was completely naked. He also had no penis. This seemed to be a departure from Scripture. If you were willing to stretch Job's description of a behemoth to include baby triceratops on Noah's Ark, as Ham did in his lecture, then surely, since he was being depicted before his fall, Adam should have been out there waving unashamedly in the paradisiacal breezes. For that matter, what was Eve doing there, across the room, with her hair falling just so to cover her breasts and her midsection, as though in a nude scene from some 1950s Swedish art house film? After all, Genesis chapter 2, verse 25, clearly says that at this point in their lives, the man and the woman were both naked and they were not ashamed. If Adam could sit there courageously unencumbered while naming the saber-toothed tiger, then why, 6,000 years later, should he be depicted as a eunuch in some family values Eden? And if these people can take away what Scripture says is rightfully his, then why can't Charles Darwin and the accumulated science of the previous 150-odd years take away the rest of it? These were impolite questions. Nobody asked them here by the cool pond tucked into the gentle hillside. Increasingly, amazingly, nobody asked them outside the gates either. It was impolite to wonder why our parents had sent us all to college and why generations of immigrants had sweated and bled so that their children could be educated, if not so that one day we would feel confident enough to look at a museum full of dinosaurs rigged to run 6 furlongs at Aqueduct and make the not unreasonable point that it was batshit crazy and that anyone who believed this righteous hooey should be kept away from sharp objects and their own money. Instead, people go to court over this kind of thing. Dinosaurs with saddles? Dinosaurs on Noah's Ark? Welcome to your new Eden. Welcome to Idiot America. The title of this book very nearly was Blinking from the Ruins, and it very nearly was merely a tour of the extraordinary way America has gone marching backward into the 21st century. Unquestionably, part of the process was the shock of having more than 3,000 of our fellow citizens